Yes, good evening everyone. Welcome to Sankalp learning classes. So let us continue the chapter acids, bases and salts. I hope all are ready to listen the class. Yes, good evening. Yes. So in the last class what we studied? Just recall it. What we studied in the last class? So that is what is acid and what is base and how they are going to react with the metals, how acids and bases react with the metals, then how they are going to react with the metal carbonates and metal hydrogen carbonates, Na2CO3 metal carbonate and metal hydrogen carbonate, how the acids react with the NaHCO3. So that is very important. And how acids are going to react with the metal oxides. So metal oxide ಜೊತೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಹಾಗೆ how bases are going to react with the non metal oxides. So that also we have completed in the last class ಅಲ್ವಾ. So ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ next topic. What happens to an acid or base in a water solution? Okay, so in a water solution what happens to that acid or base? So for that, to check that, so there is an experiment given. You have to take the test tube. So this is the test tube. When this test tube is, so two test tubes you have to take. Test tube, in that test tube you have to take the sodium chloride, okay, NaCl, sodium chloride in that test tube. So this test tube that is holded with the pair of tongs, so this is called as the pair of tongs. Then dropper containing the concentrated HCl, so sodium H2SO4, okay, sodium chloride NaCl that reacts with the concentrated H2SO4, that is the sulfuric acid is added to sodium chloride, okay. So in this process when H2SO4 sulfuric acid is added to the sodium chloride, so the gas is produced that is called as the HCl gas, okay. So this HCl gas is produced. So here this gas is tested with the moist litmus paper and the dry litmus paper, okay. So this gas is collected with the delivery tube. So the cork is present here and delivery tube is connected here. Then this delivery tube that contains the HCl gas, so that is tested with the litmus paper, okay. So first you have to test with the dry litmus paper. You know that HCl, hydrochloric acid, HCl, but it is in a gaseous form, okay. HCl, that is the gas, okay. So illi gas production ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ HCl gas, okay. So when you tested this litmus paper with dry litmus paper, okay, when you test this hydrochloric acid gas with the dry litmus paper, so there is a no change in the litmus paper. There is no color change in the litmus paper, okay. But when you observe when you take the moist litmus paper, so when you take the moist litmus paper to check this HCl gas, so this blue litmus paper that turns to red. Blue litmus paper that turns to red when it is contact with the HCl. So what happened in this experiment? So when the HCl is gas, okay, HCl is gas tested with the dry litmus paper, so there is no color change. But when it is tested with the moist litmus paper means it contains the water, okay. So what happened in this experiment? What you observed in this experiment? So in the presence of water, what happens? The HCl gas, so that is able to form the H plus ions. So this H plus gas that is able to form the H plus ions, that is the hydrogen ions. H plus ions are formed, and these H plus ions, they are responsible for the acid character, right? So the H plus ions, they are responsible for the acid character. But when the dry litmus paper is used, the HCl gas that will not produces the H plus ions, that is not able to form the H plus ions. When H plus ions are not formed, then it is not a acid ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ H plus ions ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನಾನು ನಿನ್ನೆ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆರಿಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೆ, C6H12O6 ಇದು H plus ion ಅನ್ನ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ದ H plus ions in the presence of water also. But so it is not able to show the acid character, which is not a acid. So what we can conclude here, this experiment suggests that hydrogen ions in HCl are produced in the presence of water. So how we can conclude this experiment? Hydrogen ions in HCl are produced in the presence of water. Means acids, they show they form the H plus ions only in the presence of water. The separation of H plus ion from HCl molecules cannot occur in the absence of water. So when the water is absent, so when you tested the HCl gas with the dry litmus paper, water is absent, right? So this, when the water is absent, so what we can say here, so the acids, they are not able to form the H plus ions. They are not able to form the H plus ions. So that we can conclude. Okay. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, what happens to an acid or a base in a water solution? ಸೊ ವಾಟರ್ ಜೊತೆ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆದಾಗ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ವಾಟರ್ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಇನ್ ದ ಪ್ರೆಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, H plus ions ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಅಬ್ಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ H plus ions ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ HCl, in the presence of water, it forms the H3O plus, that is the hydronium ion. Hydrogen ions cannot exist alone, but they exist after combining with water molecules. When the water molecules H2O combines with the H plus ions, hydrogen ions, so it forms the, hydrogen ions, when combines with the H2O, it forms the H plus ions or hydronium ion, that is the H3O plus, that is called as the hydronium ion. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಅಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಅಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಶೋನ್ ಆಸ್, ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಅಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಆಗೋದನ್ನ ನಾವೇನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ, H plus ions, or here H3O plus hydronium ions are formed. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಬೇಸ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಜೊತೆ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆದಾಗ, ಆರ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಪ್ರೆಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವಾಟರ್, ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಶೋ. ಈಗ ಆಸಿಡ್ಸ್ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ಆಸಿಡ್ಸ್ H plus ions ಅನ್ನ ವಾಟರ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, H plus ions ಅನ್ನ, ಆರ್ H3O plus ions ಅನ್ನ, H3O plus ions ಅನ್ನ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ದೆನ್ ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಬೇಸ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, so for example, sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is the base. In the presence of water, it forms the Na plus ions and OH minus ions. So in the presence of water, which ions are formed here? In the base, OH minus ions are formed. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ, potassium hydroxide KOH ಅಂತ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. KOH ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಕೂಡ H plus ions ಅನ್ನ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಮೆಗ್ನೀಷಿಯಂ ಹೈಡ್ರಾಕ್ಸೈಡ್ MgOH twice. ಮೆಗ್ನೀಷಿಯಂ ಹೈಡ್ರಾಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಕೂಡ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ದ OH minus ions. Means, so these bases, they forms the hydroxide ions, that is the OH minus ions. So I hope this concept is clear. So ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಡೌಟ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? ವಾಟರ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಆಸಿಡ್ಸ್ H plus ions ಅನ್ನ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಬೇಸಸ್ ಏನನ್ನ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, OH minus ion ಅನ್ನ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಎನಿ ಡೌಟ್? ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಡೌಟ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಎಸ್ ಡಿಯರ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಡೋಂಟ್ ಚಾಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಚಾಟ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೆಸೆಸರಿಲಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಐ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಒನ್ಸ್ ಅಗೇನ್, ನೀವು ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಗೆ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಡೌಟ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಚಾಟ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿ. ಅನ್ನೆಸೆಸರಿ ಆಗಿ ನೀವು ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಎಸ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು. No doubt, no doubt. Yes, many students are saying no doubt. Yes, let us move to the next concept. When water is mixed with acid or base. So here there is experiment is given for this. When water is mixed with acid or base, so take a 10 ml of water in a beaker. So you should take the beaker. So just imagine this experiment. 10 ml of water you have to take. For that you have to add small dropwise concentrated H2SO4. Concentrated H2SO4 should be added dropwise. Okay. So when you add the concentrated H2SO4, concentrated H2SO4 ನ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ವೈಸ್ ವಾಟರಿಗೆ ಹಾಕಿದಾಗ ನೀವೇನ್ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಆ ಒಂದು ಬೀಕರ್ ಲೈಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೀಟ್ ಆಗಿರೋದನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸೋಥರ್ಮಿಕ್ ಆರ್ ಎಂಡೋಥರ್ಮಿಕ್? ಸೊ ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಎಂಡೋಥರ್ಮಿಕ್ ಆರ್ ಎಕ್ಸೋಥರ್ಮಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್? ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದಾ? ಎಕ್ಸೋಥರ್ಮಿಕ್ ಆರ್ ಎಂಡೋಥರ್ಮಿಕ್? ಸೊ ವೆನ್ ದ ಹೀಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್, ಹೀಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಕ್ಸೋಥರ್ಮಿಕ ಎಂಡೋಥರ್ಮಿಕ? ಎಸ್ ಸರಳ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಡೌಟ್? ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ so directly you can write the question. Okay, if you have any question, so you can write directly. Yes, so that is the exothermic process because heat is produced. Endothermic means heat is absorbed from the surrounding. So that is the endothermic process, right? So here the process of dissolving an acid or base in a water is highly exothermic one. So that is highly exothermic means when you add the acid to the water, that is exothermic means lot of heat is produced. Heat produce ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Care must be taken while mixing concentrated nitric acid or sulfuric acid with the water. So ನೀವು ವಾಟರ್ ಜೊತೆ ಆಸಿಡ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ವೆರಿ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹೈಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸೋಥರ್ಮಿಕ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸೊ ದರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಹೀಟ್. ಹೀಟ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಜಾಸ್ತಿಯಾಗಿ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಯೂಸ್ ದ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟೆಡ್ ನೈಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಆಸಿಡ್ ಆರ್ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟೆಡ್ acids like sulfuric acid, concentrated any acids. The acid must always be added slowly to the water with constant stirring. If water is added to the concentrated acid, the heat is generated may cause mixture to splash or out and it cause the burns. So il nodi, so what I said, so this is the beaker that contain the water. Just imagine this is the water. Okay, so you should, when you are adding the concentrated H2SO4, okay, concentrated H2SO4 anna add ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, you should add it drop wise by stirring. So ಒಂದು ಮಿಕ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟಿಯನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಸ್ಟಿರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ವೈಸ್ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹೈಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸೋಥರ್ಮಿಕ್. ನೀವು ಒಂದೇ ಸಲ ಇದ್ರಕ್ಕೆ ಸುರಿದ್ ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಮೇ ಎಕ್ಸಾಸ್ಟ್ ಏನಾಗ್ಬೋದು, ತುಂಬಾ ಹೀಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ವಾಟರಿಗೆ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟೆಡ್ H2SO4 ಅನ್ನ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ವೈಸ್ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ there is a condition. So just imagine this is the acid, the beaker that contain the acid, the beaker, so it contains the acid. Okay, so when you add the water, so water ಅನ್ನ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಸೊ this may cause the burns or the lot of heat is generated in this situation, or there is a chance of breakdown of this container. ಸೊ ನೀವು ವಾಟರ್ನ ಆಸಿಡ್ಗೆ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಬಹುದು, ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಹೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಬಹುದು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ ಕಂಟೈನರ್ ಒಡೆಯುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನು? ಈ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ವೆನ್ ಯು ಸೊ why we should add the acids to water, not water to acid. Give reason. ಸೊ ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. H2SO4 ಅನ್ನ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ವೈಸ್ ಆಗಿ ವಾಟರ್ಗೆ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಟೇಕ್ ದ ಆಸಿಡ್, ಯು ಶುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಆಡ್ ದ ವಾಟರ್ ಟು ಆಸಿಡ್. ವಾಟರ್ ಅನ್ನ ಆಸಿಡ್ಗೆ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು, ಆಸಿಡ್ ಅನ್ನ ವಾಟರ್ಗೆ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ವೈಸ್ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಗಿವ್ ರೀಸನ್ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ? ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ರೀಸನ್? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ವಾಟರ್ ಅನ್ನ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಆಸಿಡ್ಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ದ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ ಕಂಟೈನರ್ ಮೇ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಡ್ಯೂ ಟು ದ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಲೋಕಲ್ ಹೀಟಿಂಗ್, ಆರ್ ದ ಹೀಟ್ ಜನರೇಟೆಡ್ ಮೇ ಕಾಸ್ ದ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ಚರ್ ಟು ಸ್ಪ್ಲಾಶ್ ಔಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಕಾಸ್ ದ ಬರ್ನ್ಸ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಸಿಡಿಯುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ರೀಸನ್. ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ಆಸಿಡ್ ಆರ್ ಬೇಸ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ವಾಟರ್ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ H plus or OH minus ions per unit volume. Such process is called as the dilution of the acid or base said to be diluted. So ಈಗ ನೀವು water, for example, so this is the acid. Okay, acid ಅಲ್ಲಿ just imagine 50 H plus ions ಇದೆ. Okay, so there were total 50 H plus ions are there. So when you add the water, so the volume is 10 ml. Okay, 10 ml. For 10 ml acids, 50 H plus ions are there. Okay, so if you add the water, 10 more ml water is added, so that will become 20 ml. Okay, so the total volume become 20 ml, but the total H plus ions are, that is 50. So for 20 ml, 50 H plus ions are there now. So that is called as the concentration of ions decreased. Ions concentration ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಮೊದಲು 10 ml ಗೆ 50 ಇತ್ತು, ಈಗ 20 ml ಗೆ 50 ಆಗಿದೆ. So the ions concentration is decreased per unit volume. So that is called as, so dilution. So dilution agide, dilute agide. So when you add the water to the acid or base, so the concentration of H plus or OH minus ions per unit volume, that will be decreased. ಅದೇನಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್, ಡೈಲ್ಯೂಷನ್. Then, so I hope this concept is clear. That is the dilution process. Okay, next, how strong acid and base solution? So here, you know, acid and base, acid ಮತ್ತೆ base ಅಂತ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ. So this acid, is it strong or weak? So there are two types of acid, that is strong acid, weak acid. And there is a base, so we can use the word strong acid and the weak acid. Okay, so strong base, weak base, ಈ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. How we can determine that this is the strong acid, this is the strong base? So ಹೇಗೆ ಡಿಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಅದನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ? For example, concentrated HCl, that is the strong acid. Concentrated H2SO4, that is the strong acid. So ಹೇಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅದನ್ನ? Acid base indicators can be used to distinguish between the acid and base. The scale for measuring the hydrogen ions concentration is in a solution called pH scale has been developed to test the hydrogen ion concentration in the solution. So the special thing is developed, that is called as the pH scale. ಈಗ ಒಂದು ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಅಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ, ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಪಿ ಎಚ್ ಸ್ಕೇಲ್ ಇಂದ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ದ the word pH stands for potence in German, meaning power. So on the pH scale we can measure the pH generally 0 to 0 to 7. Okay, so that is 0 to 6, that is acidic, and from 8 to 14, that is alkaline. Okay, ನೋಡಿ ಇದನ್ನ ನಿಮಗೆ ಒಂದು pH scale through explain ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ. Yes, here 0 to 14 number will be there in the pH scale. Okay, yes, 7 is the neutral. 7 ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಲ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಆಸಿಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಬೇಸು ಅಲ್ಲ, ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ? So here if increasing the H plus ions increase ಆಯಿತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ that is called as strong acid. H plus ions ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಸಿಡ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೇವೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಈಗ OH minus ions ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೇವೆ, ಬೇಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೇವೆ, that we call as a base. If the H plus ions are more, so the number on the pH scale decrease. ಈಗ H plus ions ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಂಬರ್ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ from 7 to 0. So 6 ಇರ್ಬೋದು, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 1 means that is having the more H plus ions. More H plus ions ಅಂದ್ರೆ so that is the strong acid. That is the strong acid. Okay, so ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, H plus ion concentration ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ from 6 to 1, so that will increase. Okay, so increase ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ so that is the strong acid. Then the OH minus ion concentration that decreases from 7 to 14 means OH minus ions, sorry, H plus ions decreasing. So H plus ions decrease ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, so that is showing the that is showing the basic character. Okay, ಈಗ 7 ಇಂದ 14, so that represents the base, and from 0 to 7 that represents the acid. Okay, ಈಗ 7 ಇಂದ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ನೇಚರ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಬೇಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. ಈಗ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, 7 ಇಂದ ನಂಬರ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಸಿಡ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ. ಫ್ರಾಮ್ 1 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this number that shows the acid character, and 7 that is the neutral, from 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that is the basic nature. So acid character, strong acid ಯಾವಾಗ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? So when it is having the pH less, that is 2, 3 like that. So strong base ಯಾವಾಗ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? pH ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ, like 12, 13, 14 ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ strong base ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. Okay, here you can observe gastric juice that is present in our stomach alva. So that is that contain the HCl, hydrochloric acid is present in the gastric juice. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಲೈಫ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸಸ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಾ. The gastric juice that contains the HCl, the pH is 1, very important. And the lemon juice pH, so that is almost 2.2, that is the strong acid. ಲೆಮನ್ ಜ್ಯೂಸ್, ಲೆಮನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಸಿಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಆಸಿಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ದ ಸಿಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಆಸಿಡ್. ಇದನ್ನ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ MCQ ದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ, ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ. ದ ಲೆಮನ್ ಜ್ಯೂಸ್ that is having the 2.2 pH, that is also strong acid. Orange slice, so that is having the 4 pH. ಇದನ್ನ pH scale ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೇವೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ, saliva, so that is present in our mouth, that is having the pH 5, around 5. Okay, and the pH of our blood, that is 7, and water, that should be 7. And milk of magnesia, very important, the milk of magnesia, the pH of the milk of magnesia, that is the mild base, that is not a strong base, that is a weak base, that is 10. And sodium hydroxide, example for the strong base, that is the sodium hydroxide, NaOH, that is the strong acid. Okay, sodium hydroxide. So this is the pH scale and pH of the different substances. So ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ substance pH ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. And this pH scale, so this pH number, saliva or this water, milk of magnesia, that is very important for your MCQ. Okay, MCQ ದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ and ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಓಕೆ. The strength of acids and bases depends on the number of H plus ions and the OH ions produced, OH minus ions produced respectively. Okay. If we take the hydrochloric acid and the acetic acid. So hydrochloric acid and the acetic acid, the same concentration. So if you take the hydrochloric acid 50 ml and the acetic acid 50 ml. Okay, both are in a 50 ml, but H plus ions concentration is more in the hydrochloric acid, less in the acetic acid. So here this HCl, that is the strong acid, and this acetic acid, that is the weak acid. Example for the weak acid yaudu? Acetic acid. Nodi. These both acids, they produce the different amounts of hydrogen ions. Acids that give rise to more H plus are said to be strong acids, and acids that give less H plus ions are said to be weak acids. That is the weak acid. So, are plants and animals pH sensitive? Are they sensitive for the pH? Here, what is the range of the pH in our body? Our body works within the pH range 7 to 7.8. The pH level is 7.0 to 7.8. Very important for MCQ. Okay. Living organisms can survive only in a narrow range of pH change. So living organisms ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ pH variation ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು. So it should not be more acidic or more basic. When the pH of rainwater is less than 5.6, it is called as acid rain. So when acid rain flows into the rivers, it lowers the pH of the river water. The survival of the aquatic life in such rivers become difficult. So ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, sometimes the rainwater mixes with the gases, that is sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide ಜೊತೆ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆದಾಗ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, so it produces the water, so that is which is acidic. So when the pH of the rainwater is less than 5.6, it is called as acid rain. And when acid rain flows into rivers, so acid rain ಆದಾಗ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, acid rain ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, a water rivers ಗೆ flow ಆದಾಗ that river also become acidic, so which also contain the acidic water. The survival of aquatic life in such rivers becomes difficult. The aquatic organisms, they are not able to survive in the acidic water or which is more acidic water. So the aquatic life such in rivers become difficult. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು MCQ ದಲ್ಲಿ this what is acid rain and the pH range of the acid rain ತುಂಬಾ important ಇದೆ. Okay. Then what is the pH of the soil in your backyard? Okay, so plants also survive in the particular pH range, means they do not need more acidic soil or more basic soil. So plants correct agi growth agbeku andre, so if they want to grow properly, then the soil should not be more acidic or more basic. That should be in a particular pH range. Plants require a specific pH range for their healthy growth. To find out the pH, so you have to, so if you want to check the pH of your soil which is present in your backyard. So ನಿಮ್ಮನೆ ಹತ್ರ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು pH ಅನ್ನ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ you have to follow this procedure. So you have to put the 2 gram of soil in the test tube and add 5 ml of water into it. Shake the contents of the test tube. You have to shake the contents which is present in that test tube and filter the contents. Filter the contents and collect the filtrate in a test tube. So the filtrate that is collected, that is checked with the indicator. pH paper anta irutte. So that contain the that shows the some color difference. So you have to check with the indicator paper. So like that you can check the pH of your backyard. Then pH in our digestive system. So you know that our stomach, I hope you have studied in the life processes chapter alva, ಆ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಾ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ. HCl, our stomach that produces the HCl, hydrochloric acid, that is the acid. It helps in the digestion of food without harming the stomach. It helps in the digestion of food without harming the stomach. During the indigestion, the stomach produces too much acid and it causes the pain and irritation. The digestive system, so that produces the HCl in the stomach, and this stomach HCl that is required to required for the digestion. If too much acid is produced during the indigestion, then it causes the pain and irritation. And to get rid of this pain, people use the bases, the mild bases that are called antacids. Very important. What are antacids? What are antacids? The bases that are used to cure, which cure the pain which is caused due to the production of the too much acids. So that is the antacids. These antacids, they neutralize the excess acid present in the stomach. And magnesium hydroxide, so that is the milk of magnesia, the pH is 10. A mild base is often used for this purpose. The milk of magnesia, idanna ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, that is the example for antacids. Okay, so antacids ಗೆ ಮೈಲ್ಡ್ ಬೇಸ್ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಯಾವುದು, ಮೆಗ್ನೀಷಿಯಂ ಹೈಡ್ರಾಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಸೊ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಗೆಟ್ ರಿಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ಪೇನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಇರಿಟೇಷನ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದ ಆಸಿಡ್. pH change as the cause of tooth decay, very very important. The tooth decay, ಹಲ್ಲು ಹಾಳಾಗುವುದು ಅಲ್ವಾ ಅಥವಾ ಹುಳುಕಾಗುವುದು. So that is because of the tooth decay. So how the tooth decay and this pH is related? Tooth decay starts when the pH of mouth is lower than 5.5. When the pH of the mouth that is lower than the 5.5 means, so our mouth pH is less than 5.5, then the tooth decay that starts. Okay, tooth enamel made up of calcium hydroxyapatite, a crystalline form of calcium phosphate. Very important, calcium hydroxyapatite. It is the hardest substance in our body. So this substance, that is the hardest substance which cannot be destroyed. So ಈ tooth enamel, white color enamels ಏನಿರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, that is the hardest substance, ನಮ್ಮ ಬಾಡಿಲಿ ಇರುವಂತ hardest substance. But it does not dissolve in water but corroded when the pH in mouth below 5.5. But it can be destroyed. ಅದು ಕೂಡ destroy ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹೇಗೆ? If our mouth pH is less than 5.5. The bacteria present in mouth produces acids by degradation of sugar and food particles remaining in the mouth after eating. ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಮೌತ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ acids ಹೇಗೆ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಲ್ವಾ? So in our mouth certain bacteria are present. In our mouth certain bacteria are present. What they do? So they break down the materials, food particles or sugar what we eat. the food which contain the sugar, right? Sometimes sugar or the food particles. So these bacteria, they break down the sugar or food particles, and they produces the acids. By degradation of sugar and food particles, they produce the acids. ಫುಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಡಿಗ್ರೇಡ್ ಆಗೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಶುಗರ್ ಡಿಗ್ರೇಡ್ ಆಗೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಸಿಡ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ದ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ವೇ ಟು remaining in the mouth after eating, the best way to prevent this, to clean the mouth after eating the food, using the toothpaste which are generally basic for which are generally basic means base. Okay, cleaning the teeth can neutralize the excess acid and prevent tooth decay. Okay, so how we can prevent the tooth decay? By using the toothpaste using which contain the more basic substances, and cleaning the mouth after eating. So ಊಟ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅಥವಾ ತಿಂದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ನಾವು we have to clean that. Okay, so these are the best way to prevent the tooth from the tooth decay. Okay, so ಇದು ಈ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಕೂಡ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. 2 or 3 mark question, mainly 3 mark question. Okay, 3 mark ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ how we can prevent the tooth decay, and what are the reasons, what is the reason for the tooth decay, how it is caused. ಸೊ ಈ ತರ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಈ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಆಗತ್ತಲ್ವಾ ಟೂತ್ ಡಿಕೆ. Then self defense by animals and plants. So the plants and animals, they use the acids as a self defense. Self defense means to prevent themselves from the some attackers. Okay, though through the chemical warfare, bee sting leaves an acid which causes the pain and irritation. Bee sting, so honey bee or bees ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಸೊ ಅದರ ಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಸೊ ಅದು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ, ಬೈಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಇರಿಟೇಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪೇನ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಕಂಟೈನ್ಸ್ ದ ಆಸಿಡ್. ಆ ಒಂದು ಆಸಿಡ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, so it caused the pain and irritation. Use of mild base like baking soda on that area gives the relief. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಹನಿ ಬೀಸ್, ಜೇನು ಹುಳ ಕಡ್ದಾಗ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಯಾಕೆ ಅದು ಅಷ್ಟು ಪೇನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇರಿಟೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಆಸಿಡ್ಸ್ ವಿಚ್ ಆರ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ದಟ್ ಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಸೊ ಆಸಿಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಹೇಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು? ಬೈ ಅಪ್ಲೈಯಿಂಗ್ ದ ಬೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಸೋಡಾ. ಓಕೆ, ಸ್ಟಿಂಗಿಂಗ್ ಹೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ನೆಟಲ್ ಲೀವ್ಸ್, inject methanoic acid causing the burning pain. So here this bee sting, that also contain the methanoic acid. Which acid is present? Methanoic acid. And the nettle leaves also inject the methanoic acid, so that cause the burning pain. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಈ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್. ಈ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಟಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನೋಡಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕೈ ಮೇಲೆ ಈ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದ್ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಗುಳ್ಳೆಗಳು ಆಗತ್ತೆ, ಇರಿಟೇಷನ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ, ಪೇನ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ, ನೀವು ಹನಿ ಬಿ ಅನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಇರತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಆ ಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅದು ಬೈಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಾಡಿಗೆ ಇಂಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಕಂಟೈನ್ ದ ಆಸಿಡ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಮೆಥನೋಯಿಕ್ ಆಸಿಡ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ನೆಟಲ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್, ಸೊ ಈ ಲೀವ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಆಸಿಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಮೆಥನೋಯಿಕ್ ಆಸಿಡ್. ತುರಿಕೆ ಗಿಡ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೇವೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ this is also, that pain and irritation, that is because of the acid, that is called as the methanoic acid. And some food items, they also contain the acids, but they are helpful. So like the citrus fruits, so they contain the citric acid. And curd, so which acid is present inside the curd? Anybody just comment. Which acid is present in curd? Which acid is present? Anybody please comment. Yes, lactobacillus, that is the bacteria. Acid, I'm asking. Yes, very good. Many students are commenting that lactic acid. Yes, lactic acid. Yes, very good. And in tomato oxalic acid is present. ಟೊಮ್ಯಾಟೊದಲ್ಲಿ oxalic acid ಇರುತ್ತೆ. And in tamarind, ಹುಣಸೆ ಹಣ್ಣಿನಲ್ಲಿ, so it contain the tartaric acid. So tartaric acid present ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Okay. So this is about the acids and bases. So ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೆ ಏನ್ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಸೊ that is about the acids and bases. So you know the heading of this chapter, acids, bases and salts ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಏನಿದೆ, ಆಸಿಡ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ, ಬೇಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ, ಅಂಡ್ ರಿಮೈನಿಂಗ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್. ಓಕೆ, ಆಸಿಡ್ಸ್, ಬೇಸಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆ, ಆಸಿಡ್ಸ್, ಬೇಸಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್. ದೆನ್ so here some salts are given. For example, potassium sulfate, sodium sulfate, calcium sulfate, so magnesium sulfate, for example, Na2SO4, CalCaSO4. So these all are NaCl, sodium chloride. So these all are example for the salt, alva. So dear students, try to write the formula of chemical formula of these all salts. Salts having the same positive or negative radicals are said belong to a same family. For example, sodium chloride, NaCl, or sodium sulfate belong to the sodium family, and sodium chloride and potassium chloride, so they belong to the that is called as chloride salt. Idanna sodium salts anta karidre, idanna chloride salts anta karitare alva. Then pH of the salts, are they acidic or basic? So salts pH ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಅವರು ಅದು ಆಸಿಡಿಕ್ ಆಗಿರತ್ತಾ ಆರ್ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಆಗಿರತ್ತಾ ನೇಚರಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. So here you have to collect the some salt, that is sodium chloride, potassium nitrate, or aluminum chloride, zinc sulfate. These all are the example for the salt. And how you can check the pH of this, how you can decide the pH of these all salts. So here the salts pH ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಆಸಿಡ್ ಆಗಿರತ್ತಾ, ಬೇಸ್ ಆಗಿರತ್ತಾ. ನಮಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ. Salts of strong acid and strong base are neutral with pH value 7. For example, salts with the strong acid HCl plus NaOH, sodium chloride, which produces the NaCl, right? Sodium chloride is produced. The salt pH, sodium chloride pH ಏನು ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ, that is neutral 7. The pH of the sodium chloride, that is the 7, because salts of strong acid and the strong base. HCl is the strong acid and NaOH is the strong base. Okay. Then on the other hand, salts of weak acid and the weak base are acidic with pH value less than 7. So weak acid, strong acid and the weak base. Strong acid, weak base ಆದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, are acidic with the pH value less than 7. Strong acid, weak base ಆದ್ರೆ, so they are acidic. Okay. Those of strong base and weak acid are basic in nature. Strong base, weak acid. So when the strong base that combines with the weak acid, so that is basic in nature with the pH value more than 7. So like that we can decide the pH of the salts. So ಈ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ pH value ನ decide ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. Okay. Yes. chemicals from the common salt. So sodium chloride, NaCl. So that is the common salt or table salt anta karitare alva. Salt formed by the combination of hydrochloric acid and the sodium hydroxide solution is called as the sodium chloride. When salt formed by the combination of HCl, strong acid and the strong base, that is NaOH, that is called as the NaCl, sodium chloride. So this is the salt that you use in the food. So sodium chloride that we use in our food. Sea water contains the many salts dissolved in it. Sodium chloride separated from these salts. Sea water ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಡಿಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ? ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಕ್ಲೋರೈಡ್ is separated from these salts and deposits of solid salt are found in the several parts of the world. These large crystals are often brown due to the impurities. This is called as the rock salt. ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾವು ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ? ಒಂದು ಸಮುದ್ರದಿಂದ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಸಿ ವಾಟರ್ ಇಂದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಸೊ ಅದರ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಒನ್ ಮೋರ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಇಸ್ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ರಾಕ್ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ದ ಡಿಪೋಸಿಟ್ಸ್ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆ ಏನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಡಿಪೋಸಿಟ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸಾಲಿಡ್ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ ಆರ್ salts are also found in the several parts of the world. So and beds of rock salts were formed when the seas of bygone ages dried up. Rock salt is mined like a coal. ಈ ರಾಕ್ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಆಪ್ಟೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ನೋಡಿ, ನೀವು ರಾಕ್ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೋಡಿರ್ಬಹುದು, ಈ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಈ ಕಲರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಅ ಕೋಲ್. ಕೋಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಆಪ್ಟೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಸೊ ಆ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಅದನ್ನ ತೆಗಿತಾರೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದ seas, so that is dried up. So that is the, it is also called as pink salt, that is the also called as rock salt. Okay. Then common salt. So here the common salt thus obtained is important raw material for various materials like daily use. ಈ common salt ಇಂದ so ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, from common salt NaCl, this is the basic raw material. What is the meaning of raw material? It is used to produce some other materials. Okay, so ಇದನ್ನ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಮಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಕ್ಲೋರೈಡ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಸಚ್ ಆಸ್ ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಹೈಡ್ರಾಕ್ಸೈಡ್, ಬೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಸೋಡಾ, washing soda, bleaching powder and many more. So many like sodium hydroxide irbodu, baking soda irbodu, washing soda, bleaching powder. So these all are, so that is prepared by, to produce these all salts. Sodium chloride is the basic raw material. Okay, let us see how the common salt sodium chloride base ಆ ಒಂದು ರಾ ಮಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಒಂದು ಮಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ, ಡೈಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್. Sodium hydroxide. Okay, how the sodium hydroxide is produced. Sodium hydroxide ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನೋಡಿ. When electricity is passed through the aqueous solution of sodium chloride, so that aqueous solution of sodium chloride, that is called as a brine solution. Okay, aqueous means the sodium chloride that is present in water, means that is in the aqueous form. It decomposes to form sodium hydroxide, and this process is called as chlor-alkali process because of products formed chlor for chlorine and alkali for sodium hydroxide. Okay, so let us study this with the diagram. Yes, this is the setup. So in this setup, so this is the experimental setup. Here this blue colors represent, that is the aqueous sodium chloride, aqueous sodium chloride NaCl. It is called as brine solution. Aqueous solution of NaCl, that is also called as brine solution. Okay, sodium chloride anna brine solution anta karitare. Aqueous aqueous. Okay, so nodi, then here two electrodes are used. So that is, one is anode and the cathode. So cathode ಮತ್ತೆ anode ಅನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, and this cathode and anode that is connected to the battery. Okay, this is the experimental setup. So when you pass the electricity through this solution, here NaCl solution that forms the Na plus and Cl minus ions, Na plus and the Cl minus ions, and the water that split into H plus and the OH minus ions. So illi ions formation aitu, Na plus and Cl minus, H plus and OH minus alva. So here this Na plus positive ion and the OH minus negative ion combines to form the NaOH. Okay, and here this chlorine and hydrogen, so hydrogen ions that forms the gases that is called as chlorine gas and this hydrogen gas. So this chlorine gas that is produced near the anode and hydrogen gas that is produced near the cathode. ಈ ಒಂದು process ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತು, sodium hydroxide is produced and chlorine gas as well as hydrogen gas is produced. So here sodium hydroxide that is alkali and chlorine that is the gas. So this process is called as chlor-alkali process, and this process is called as chlor-alkali process. Okay, chlor-alkali process anta karitare. So here you can see the NaCl plus water which forms the sodium hydroxide, chlorine and the hydrogen gas. Okay, chlorine gas is given off at the anode and hydrogen gas is at the cathode, and sodium hydroxide solution is formed at the near the cathode. The three products produced in this process are very useful. Sodium hydroxide ಅನ್ನ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅಂತ ನೋಡ್ವಿ. ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಹೈಡ್ರಾಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಜೊತೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದೇನ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಕ್ಲೋರಿನ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್, ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್. ಕ್ಲೋರಿನ್ ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ದ ಕ್ಲೋರ್ ಅಲ್ಕಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ situation, three products are formed, and these three products also very useful. How these products are very useful ನೋಡಿ, this chlorine produced, ಇದನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದನ್ನ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಈ ಡೈಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಇದರ ಯೂಸಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಓಕೆ, ದ ಯೂಸಸ್ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಡೈಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ, ನಾಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ this uses of this hydrogen, chlorine and sodium hydroxide, so that is repeatedly asked in the exam. So exam ಅಲ್ಲಿ repeated ಆಗಿ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹೇಗೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, write the uses of the chlorine gas which is produced in the chlor-alkali process. Okay, so that is used for the water treatment, swimming pool, that chlorine is used in the swimming pool, and PVC and disinfectants, CFCs and the pesticides. So the production of pesticides, CFCs and disinfectants, so these all are produced in this only. Okay, by using this chlorine and hydrogen gas. So it is used to produce the fuels, margarine, that is the butter, and ammonia and the fertilizers, ammonia for the fertilizers, and sodium hydroxide that is used for the degreasing of metals, soaps and detergents, paper making and artificial fibers. So artificial fibers making. So ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು process ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಸೋಡಿಯಂ ಹೈಡ್ರಾಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಅನ್ನ ಬಳಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ಐ ರಿಪೀಟ್, ವೆರಿ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಯುವರ್ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿಗೆ ಇದು ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಎನಿ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ರೈಟ್ ಡೌನ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಕಮೆಂಟ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್. ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಡೌಟ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಡೌಟ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಕಮೆಂಟ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಿಬಹುದು. ಎಸ್, ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಗಿವ್ ಯು 2 minutes. Yes. Any doubts? You can write down in the comment box. Okay. Cathode, that is the electrode. Okay, that here. So, which is the negative electrode. Cathode. Alva, cathode, anode. Adanna electrodes anta karitare. Okay. Okay, no doubt. No doubt. Okay. Yes, dear students. So, next topic, that is about the bleaching powder. Okay, so how the bleaching powder is produced and what are the uses of the bleaching powder. So that is the product which is formed by using the sodium chloride. Okay, so that we are going to study in the next class. Okay, I hope this class is very useful for you people, and if you have any doubts, please write down in the comment box. Okay, thank you.